You're listening to the Why That Work podcast presented by StoryBrand.ai. If you've ever wondered why certain brands, trends, or cultural phenomena find success while others don't, you're in the right place. Every week we unpack why something worked, then give you actionable insights that you can use in your own life. Now let's dive in with your hosts, Donald Miller and Kyle Reed.
Will Guidara.
Yeah.
Welcome to Why That Work podcast.
Thank you so much.
You've written a best-selling book called Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yes.
And have opened up one of the greatest restaurants in America. We're a part of that.
The number one.
The number one.
Yeah.
In the world, but
In the world. In America.
Yeah, scratch all that.
And also America.
Can't win here. At some point, we need to talk about hospitality, but today we're not talking about that.
Right.
Today, we are having you on the show because we sent you over a list of show things.
Hospitality. Why hospitality work sounded too boring.
Yeah.
No one wants to read about hospitality.
Apparently they do. By the truckload.
Only those in America. But we sent you over a list of topics, and you picked one that you want to tell us what you picked as far as what we're talking about today?
This was fascinating. We were like, we're in.
Yeah, you guys sent me a long list.
We did.
And I picked football.
Yeah.
By the way, could seem pretty counterintuitive to anyone who's known me for a long time because
Why is that?
Well,
I assumed, I haven't known you that long, a couple of years, but I assumed, he seems like a football fan.
There's plenty of people that you could have brought on to host this with you that know a lot more about football than I do. But here's my relationship to football over the course of my life. Growing up, I was a musician.
Drummer.
I was a drummer. I was like, that was my world. That was my scene. I played a lot of sports, but I wasn't like a big sports fan. And then I started working, and I was working in restaurants, which means you work all the time. And so the idea that you have time to like watch any sport for any extended period of time, it's just not a real thing. And then COVID hit, and my wife and I were living up in the country, and COVID, you just get bored at a certain point. You start looking for things to do. And we started watching football on Sundays. That was...
You and your wife did this together?
We would do it together.
Christina was in
every single Sunday. And we'd have a lot of people come up and...
Have Christina call that.
Yeah. Get her involved.
Yeah, whatever.
Christina's totally into it now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But we started watching football. And now, whatever it is, 5 years later... Every single weekend revolves around when the Bills are playing. And we picked the Bills because we were living upstate in New York. And so we're like...
And you also had good timing, by the way.
It was starting to really become good timing. And
Josh Allen's very helpful.
And if you're like opting into a team at that point, you're obviously going to not pick a terrible team. But that was the team closest to where we lived at that point.
Because they're close. That's okay.
We were in upstate New York.
But you didn't like grow up with, your dad was a Buffalo Bills fan.
No.
Okay.
No.
That's why you picked them.
And in the time since then, listen, one of the things my dad says all the time is that one of the secrets to happiness is always having something to look forward to. And I think you get older, you have kids, and
we talked about that on
filling
that
up the weekends. And that one game once a week has become something we look forward to. Yeah, it became a ritual.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's a manageable ritual when you compare the NFL to the NBA or to Major League Baseball. Like, I can consume it all.
Yeah.
I don't feel like
games.
I'm missing anything.
Yes.
And it becomes, I have a lot more thoughts, but it's become this moment every single week where it's me and my wife, whatever friends happen to be around. And like, I am emotionally devastated when they lose.
Really?
And you're extraordinarily uplifted.
Your identity is associated now. You're wearing a Bills shirt.
Yeah.
Your identity
I'm wearing
is
a Bills
associated
shirt.
with the Bills.
100%.
Yeah.
And so I wrote down that point as well. It's like, why does football work? The weekly rhythm.
Yeah.
It literally follows the perfect script. You have the lead up to the game. You have the game. You have post game, right? The next couple of days, your dialogue. Oh man, what if we did this? What if we did that?
Their whole television stations,
podcast, everything
that are devoted.
Absolutely.
To
then Wednesday hits, you kind of shift the schedule to like, who are we playing next?
Yeah.
Lead up, and then for some reason Sunday afternoon is the perfect time
to
turn a football game on.
But it's not just the weekly rhythm; it's the yearly rhythm. So you go we're watching the season right now. We're getting into the holidays. It's starting to, it really mirrors what's happening in our lives.
Yeah.
Now it's getting intense, right?
Yep.
There's going to be football on Saturday this week because
Yep.
they know we're all ramping
There's
into
football
it.
tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, tomorrow night.
And then we get into the most depressing time of the entire year. Now we have the Super Bowl.
Now we have the Super Bowl.
Okay, now everyone's so bummed because football's over. Wait, oh my gosh, here's the combine. Oh my gosh, wait, it's been a couple weeks. All right, let's do the draft.
Slowly amping
Oh,
up.
but wait a minute, now I miss it. No, it's okay. Now we can follow training. Wait, okay, now the season has started again.
Well, now there's an arena league up now. That comes right after the Super Bowl. Or before, right?
Do you think they
You can
did
stay
that?
plugged into
Do you
your
think
team.
they did that on purpose? Do you think they strategically figured out we're going to dominate? Because that's one of the conversations you see, in the spring. They take that's right when NBA playoffs are going on, and the draft crushes the NBA playoffs. Do you think
Which is so
the NFL
sad.
intentionally did that?
I have to believe they did. I mean, like,
Listen, the NFL would run year round if it weren't such a brutal sport.
for sure. But
You
I'm saying
have
they've
to-
figured out how to
Yeah.
make it run year round.
Yeah.
In a way that, like,
I
you're.
talked to Bill Haslam. He bought the Predators hockey team.
Mhm.
And I think he said, we should know this information, but he said that the NFL makes like 4 times the money as the NHL and like twice as much money as professional baseball
Oh, yeah.
with 120 less games a year. I mean, that's insane. That's insane.
But I mean, like, the idea. Have you guys ever watched a TV show and you loved it, and then the season ended and it didn't come back for another year and a half, and you never like fell back into it?
Yeah, I just did that with Yellowstone. Yeah.
I think the NFL is smart enough to know that if you check out, you might not check back in, and so they give you a good reason to never actually have to check out. Like every year, you see your favorite baseball team, like that might be the same team for 3, 4, 5 years. No matter how bad. I was talking to a guy on my team, Billy, who's a big Giants fan, and he's like, we're waiting for the draft. Next year could be our year.
Number 1 pick.
Right?
man.
Like
Yeah.
you always have hope. That's the other thing. You never actually lose a sense of hope in your team.
I get sad after the Super Bowl. And I get sad specifically because there's no more football.
Yeah.
I mean, draft is all great, but the number of people who are watching the draft versus the number of people watching games is like minuscule.
Yeah, but it gives you the ability to stay invested.
Well, sure, you're reading all that stuff, but when it's over, I get pretty sad.
Yeah.
And then it is like an emotional. I'm a Seahawks fan, 20 years in Portland, so I became a Seahawks fan, and the emotional investment is so freaking high. And I mean, when they ran up to the Super Bowl twice, that was some of the best memories and the best experience I've had in life.
If they would have just ran the ball.
Dude, Russell Wilson at Canlis. Canlis
That's
is a
right. He
restaurant.
would eat like a duck or something. Right?
Canlis was a restaurant in Seattle by our good friend Brian Canlis. The chef at Canlis at that point had come from my restaurant, and he was
I
serving
didn't know that.
the same duck, more or less, that we served at our restaurant.
Yeah.
So he would go to Canlis every single time before the game and eat that duck. And when they played in the Super Bowl in New York, he came to 11 Madison to have the duck the day before the game.
Unbelievable.
That's a great story.
Fun.
For the
full
first
circle.
one or the second one? They lost the one.
The one they didn't win.
And he did throw an interception at the end. I mean, well, let me tell you my theory on why it works. And it's because it's got the best story structure of any sport. And what I mean by that is there are plots and subplots, right? So there's the main plot of who's going to win this game. And then you have villains and you have good guys, and it's all contextual on where you're from and what your team is. So, and then there are even worse villains than other villains, right? There's your arch rival, there's your conference, rivals, there's all of that. Then you've got the main plot, who's going to win the game. And then inside of that, you actually have every drive as a story. So there's a plot, which is the game. And then every single drive is, are they going to get to the end zone? So that's one drive.
There's like micro stakes.
And then every play is a story. Are they going to make, they're going to get a few yards? Are they going to get 20 yards and get 30 yards? Or are they going to lose a few yards? Are they going to get sacked? Is there going to be a turnover? There are story questions and open story loops, multiple ones, every minute of this game. Now, here's the thing that's different than basketball and hockey and all that stuff. The story starts and ends. So the story is over at the end of the play. And now we start another story, and it's the next play, and it starts and it ends. So there are little breaks between plots and subplots, and they're really not in basketball. It's not like you drive down, you miss the shot, all right, stop the game. All right, now let's start over.
Yes.
Yeah.
So each down is a drama. Then there are player storylines.
Mm-hmm.
There are strategic battles in terms of how are they going to handle the run. This is a running team. How's the defense going to handle that? All that kind of stuff. There are momentum shifts.
Well, I want to pause on the thing you said about like the smaller stories with breaks in between.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, listen, one of the reasons why I think most sports work to some extent or another is the idea that you can watch television, which is how we mostly consume these things.
It's the better way to consume it, honestly.
In community. So when I watch a TV show or a movie with you, we're basically as two people sitting next to each other in silence, staring at a screen for however long.
Right.
When you're watching sports with people, you are in community. You are building relationships while you have this thing to facilitate
Now
the
imagine
building
going
of
to a
relationship.
theater with your buddies and they pause the movie every 60 seconds so you can talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? That's
would be-
that's the amazing.
Yeah.
It's accidental. I'm not saying they
Yeah.
strategically created it this way. But that is why this thing is so
Well-
much more
well,
powerful
that-
than Hollywood.
But that's why I think sports on TV work generally. The reason why I love what you said about football is because it gives you the ability to engage with the people around you and not fall out of the thing you're watching. It's almost like built-in conversation
Great flow.
breaks. Whereas if I start talking to you during a basketball game, we might miss something dramatic. Whereas football's like,
You can
okay,
stop.
talk to your buddy for a second. Oh, okay, now it's time to watch again.
And they think about like the adrenaline and the urgency and the intrigue of like, we just lost 2 yards, so now it's 3rd and 5.
Yes.
Right? And you're just going, are they going to be able to make this up with what's probably going to be a pass play, right? You know, are they going to be that story? And now I'm glued to the TV to
Yes.
find out. It's using plots, subplots, open story loops, closing story loops better than any Hollywood script. And it's real. It's like it's actually real. That's what's fascinating. I mean, you know, we talk about community building. Every year I've got a group of fishing buddies. We call ourselves the Lions. We go fishing in the summer. And then in the winter, all of them fly to my house. My wife leaves. We use every bed in the house. I get a 200-inch screen and rear project the national championship. We'll have 3 TVs going. We hire a chef. There's enormous amounts of booze. We're there for 3 days, and that's how it ends. It ends with that game, and it's all about watching that game. And this year, Oregon Ducks, hopefully, by God, hopefully they'll be in it.
The one other thing,
By the way, by the time this airs, people will know.
they'll know.
They were in it, yeah.
Every time you watch pretty much every other sport, maybe over the course of the entire game, there's like 1 or 2 moments where you're like, gosh, this is a big moment. You could say that 20 times throughout a football game.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like every time they're 4th and 1 and they decide to go for it, you're like, this is it. The entire game is like, this is it. And you know it's not true.
Yeah.
But there's all these moments where the pressure seems so much
Things
more
can
intense than it
change.
actually
It's
is.
like the
can
kicker who
change
misses
quick.
the field goal in the first quarter. You know that that story's already developed.
Yeah.
Because you know those 3 points are going to come back to haunt them later.
Yeah.
They miss the extra point.
Yeah.
That 1 point is going to hurt later.
You guys ever thought about football and all sports in some ways, especially college football, as proxy wars? That if these teams didn't play each other, Alabama would go to war against Texas.
Like this is the pressure release valve.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, that is I uphold that theory and believe there's truth to it.
The hatred could run that deep.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, just is it a
pride.
coincidence that there's not been another civil war since the NFL?
So you would say it's football. Thank you, football.
That causation and correlation.
I'm actually curious. I mean, I do believe that we have tribal identities. We need to work out our who's better, who's dominant.
Yeah.
You know, is it
Bragging
Alabama?
rights, yeah.
Is it, and inside of Alabama, by the way, is it Auburn or Alabama?
Big deal.
Right? Or is it Alabama or Georgia? Is it Georgia or Texas? Right? I mean, I think these are actually proxy wars,
That was one of the things I wrote down.
which have existed forever.
Why I think football works is community and tradition.
It's very
Will,
sweet of you.
Will, you were interesting because you're a newer fan. You know,
Yeah.
you picked it up. You didn't grow up above. There's no story about getting a sweater when you were a kid.
No.
But there are people out there who have been lifelong Packer fans or lifelong Michigan
it's part of their
fans, right?
family.
That's their those are the people who, when they go to Thanksgiving gatherings, that's all they have to talk about with their siblings. Maybe some people like that, right? That is a big deal. The day after Thanksgiving, or that Saturday after Thanksgiving, we watch Michigan, Ohio State, because it's Saturday after every Thanksgiving, right? So I think football works because it's one of the main sports that as you grow up as a kid, you're indoctrinated into, like, that's my team. Most families,
it's a thing that connects us. It's a shared experience, a shared loyalty.
Absolutely. And you grow up that way, you don't really stray too far from the family. Like, if you grow up, this is my team. My dad liked that team.
I
my
married
grandpa.
a New Orleans girl who comes from just the most wonderful family, maybe the most wonderful family I've ever. So let me throw them under the bus. I go to New Orleans. I'm getting to know these people.
I think what you're trying to say is, that being said.
I'm a Seahawks fan. I'm living in Portland. She's in D.C. Then I start meeting her family. Go to Thanksgiving, all this stuff, and it comes out, and they are diehard Saints fans, and I'm always giving them shit. We get married on a Saturday. On a Sunday, we fly to Seattle on the way to Hawaii for our honeymoon. We stay for Monday Night Football, which is New Orleans versus Seattle. and I mean, I'm talking crap to these guys, all her brothers and stuff like that, the whole time. I happened to interview Pete Carroll, I think, the year before, and so he invited me on the field. So I've got my new wife. We go to Canlis the night before. We got my wife. My only wife, not my new wife. My only wife on the field, texting with her
brothers. The old wife was still at home. He left her.
All this kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there in the stands going, if we don't win this game, they are effectively not giving me their daughter. Like, they're like this. They still have. And,
yes.
And we won the game, and emotionally it felt like she's mine now.
Like
she's a huge Saints fan.
Like
she's making my daughter a Saints fan. Yeah, like I was. It was
something about your masculinity.
There was
in
something
that moment.
on the line in that game, and thank God we won that.
What
game.
a way to start a marriage! Let's go to a football game against the team that you love. That seemed to, it worked.
If you don't communicate clearly, all your emails, your website, social media posts, everything you're communicating will be ignored. StoryBrand.ai is like the world's best communication expert writing it for you. Imagine having the world's best communicator writing your tagline. Just type in the name of your company, answer a few prompts, and voila. Hey, that's a good one. Use it to write your social media posts, website wireframe, emails, lead generating PDF, product or service descriptions, anything you need for your business. What would happen to your revenue if every word that left your business was crystal clear and worth paying attention to? StoryBrand.ai is your competitive advantage, so you'll say it clearly. Try it right now and let us write your custom tagline for free at StoryBrand.ai. And now back to the show.
Here's another thing from that story that was beautiful about football. There's a guy, he's a New Orleans Saints fan, and he's called Whistleblower. He has a Saints jersey on. He's got Whistleblower on the name on the back plate of his name.
I've sat behind that guy at a Saints game once.
Unbelievable. And he's got a giant whistle for a helmet head.
Yes.
And he's whistling ear-piercing, annoying whistles with like two fingers in his mouth. The whole frickin', and he only does it when the stadium is quiet because our team has the ball, and we're like 2 rows behind us. You've experienced this guy.
Yes.
He's unbelievably
in New Orleans. I sat.
He's unbelievably annoying, and everybody is just yelling at him. Would you please frickin' cut that out? And he will not stop. The police come. And they go up to him, and they're ready to take this guy away because enough people have complained. And all of the Saints fans start yelling at the police. Just like, dude, what are you doing? He's a fan.
That's our guy.
Yeah, like come on, get out of here. Oh, come on. He's just, why are you doing this? They're like, well, somebody complained, said they want us to take him. Why would you take him away? The police leave, and everybody starts attacking him again. That also says something nice about Seahawks fan. Because God, at Green Bay, they would have just let him go.
Yeah.
But I think what you're talking about is the power of ritual and tradition, which, by the way, you alluded to, like every Thanksgiving, or that guy, for however long he lives, is always going to be at those games. I mean, even like you talk about tailgating, like The amount of ritual and tradition that has organically over time been built around this sport more than any other sport.
Yeah, more than any other.
And I think
it goes back to the 17 games also. You can't do that 130 times.
No, you can't. No.
In baseball. Or
People aren't tailgating for hockey games.
No.
Well, and I also think people want to feel the capacity to consume all of something. And it's just one of the few sports that you actually have that capacity.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. In America, I mean, football dominates. I've got season tickets to Nashville Soccer Club. And we love it. And I bought them specifically because as Emmeline grows up, I want her to have these cultural memories of we get in this 1978 FJ40. We go down to the stadium. We walk in. I want her to be an NSC fan. And it's often like watching fish in an aquarium. I mean, I don't want to criticize the sport too much, but I'm like, this is a...
But here
I remember
we go.
my buddy in Portland, I was never a soccer fan. My buddy was like, he traveled backpack Europe once. He comes back as a soccer fan. And he's like, okay, Don, 4 a.m, I'm going to come pick you up. We're going to go to this bar. You're going to watch the World Cup. I'm going to make you a soccer fan. I go, 4 a.m, we're at a bar, and the game ends in a tie. And I'm like, all right. He goes, Don. Tomorrow morning, 4 a.m. I go, game ends in a tie. Third game, this is in the opening rounds, you can have ties.
Yeah.
Third game against who versus who, I don't care. Ends in a tie. And I was looking at him, I go, your sport is flawed. And he just looks at me in defeat.
Yeah.
Because he can't argue with it.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to get hate mail on this one. Soccer is by far the most popular sport in the world. And it makes billions and billions more than football. Why? I mean, now let me tell you this. I'm an NSC fan. I have season tickets. I enjoy going. So I am saying like football is a more entertaining and engaging sport. So why is it that soccer takes off globally? I mean, it's older.
Yeah.
It's 200 plus years old.
I mean, my this is totally unfounded.
Anybody can play it.
Well, no, listen, you are always going to be most prone to love the thing that you grew up playing, and it is the sport of all of the major sports that requires the least
money, the least.
Yes.
Least
we have
stuff.
a ball, we can go play out there.
Yes.
Oh.
Every other sport requires something else. It requires
Every
more
kid can
stuff.
play soccer.
Duct tape ball and newspaper.
It's the great equalizer. It doesn't
really
matter
is.
what resource you have, you can play soccer.
I'll tell you what, there are plays that I've seen in SC, Mukhtar, I mean, they defy humanity what these guys are actually doing.
Is this where you try to like make up a little bit of the hate mail?
No,
Now you're like, no, but I actually really like soccer.
No.
He's proving
Let me
his
finish.
soccer
Let me
friend.
finish. And those plays happen twice a year.
You'd be like, no, I'm digging deeper. No,
But when they do,
actually,
you're there.
Wait,
Okay, here we go. This is one of the things that I researched. Why does football work? Also soccer, even to a more degree. Partial reinforcement. The sport does not give you what you want every time. So every year I'm like, this could be the Seahawks year.
Yeah,
this could be
that's
it.
right.
Geno Smith has been a backup for 30 years. He's coming. This is coming out party.
But it is the one sport
breaks his
where
ankle.
there's enough people on the team that you could draft a couple guys and they could actually change it. Like there's reason for a sense of optimism, even if it very rarely plays out in the way you want it to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right,
Well,
I got
who
one.
is it? Was it Maslow's? Or not Maslow's? Was it Pavlov's dog that he did?
Yeah.
If you reinforce the dogs only partially, they salivate more. If you give them food every time, it becomes predictable.
Yeah.
And they're not as engaged. And I think football gives you that.
Well,
It
that's
gives you
why-
that on every play, on every drive, and in every game and every season. It's partial
sure.
reinforcement.
And that's why we can't have it year round. Because imagine if they're just like, well, everybody loves this. Let's just keep the season going. It has to
gotta
end.
start
It has
over.
to stop.
That's right.
All right, I got one for you guys. You have yet to mention. Let's see if you think
All right.
about this. Let me say, have you ever watched the Red Zone channel?
Yes.
I think football works because technology has risen to the demand of the Red Zone channel, DFS. You know what DFS is?
What's DFS?
Daily fantasy sports. So you play
Ruins
fantasy
the
football.
sport.
Oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Do you really think that fantasy football ruins the sport?
It ruins, yes, because you're sitting there with a buddy watching the Seahawks, and they're rooting for one guy on the other team. I'm like, what is this?
See, man,
So I think
would challenge that.
Yeah, I think it makes it bigger because here's why. So you're a Buffalo Bill fan. I'm a Rams fan. I can only watch the Rams play one time. But on Sunday, I can sit there if my wife will let me for 7 hours and watch the entire day.
It gives you a reason to want to watch every game.
And that's
every
why,
game for any team.
For any
That's
team.
why
That happened, by the way, in college football this year because now that there's 12 teams in the playoffs,
Yeah.
a lot of other teams matter to me.
Yes.
Right? Like Penn State, are they any good? We might meet them, right? And now you're watching other games that I could care less about before,
Yes.
but they might play the Ducks. You know?
No, and I don't.
So I get that, but fantasy sport, it's almost like there's two seasons happening in one.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think that any time you can gamify something such that everyone that's watching is also in some way participating, they're going to be that much more invested in everyone's success.
Yep.
And
So
fantasy,
you're saying this is another reason that it's getting even more interesting.
With fantasy football, people are not just watching anymore. They're not just following along. They are engaging. They are playing. Like everyone playing fantasy football, they're basically on the field now.
Yeah.
Like they think that they are
true.
Josh Allen because they've fielded their team. They're going to win. By the way, what feels better than competing with and hopefully beating your friends at something? Like,
Yeah.
and now you and I could be watching. We could be a fan of the same team. I still might beat you. And that's kind of awesome. It's like another depth of.
What about gambling?
Yeah.
You think
Gambling
gambling
is a massive part.
You gamble.
Yeah.
You gamble do you gamble every Sunday?
It depends on how well I'm doing. If I'm down a little bit. No, but it's true though. It's kind of sad. It's gotten to the place where I call it, I got to have a little juice on the game, like to make me interested. And so that is part of it, is the participation of watching that. And so, pretty regularly. Yeah.
I can't do it.
I can't.
It gets my blood pressure.
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know. I think it would take years off my life. To have $1 on this game would take years off my life.
I'm so bad with that
'Cause
too.
I don't know if it's an identity thing. Like I am actually a loser who made bad decisions rather than like my favorite thing is like I can't believe they lost, but if they win, I'm like, can't believe we won. That was awesome. We won and they lost. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
When they lose, it's
Yeah.
them,
Yes.
and when we win,
Yeah.
It's
Oh
us.
my gosh.
Your
Yeah.
identity's actually associated with this.
Yeah. I think fantasy football, gambling, red zone.
What's your big reason? Number one reason
why
that this-
football works?
Yeah, all three of us have to answer this. Number one reason why that worked in hindsight, looking back on football. By the way, I will submit that college football is actually more entertaining than the NFL now.
Yeah, I think you're crazy, but that's
Really?
great. Yeah, I watch college
There's
football.
so many
I
more
love
teams,
the NFL.
so many more dynamics,
I
and
love
the
the
rivalries are so much more heated.
So can I?
And like you could say, the Falcons are playing their arch rivals to whatever, and I'm like, I didn't know they were rivals. Auburn plays Alabama. Michigan plays Ohio State. Come on.
Well, listen, people. The reason I disagree with you is my number one reason that football, and in this case the NFL, works so well. I believe people inherently are bored. We need things to look forward to, but we want to get really excited about things that we can fully commit to and fully understand. The NFL gives you so much and not
get your mind around
too
it.
much. College football fans, in my experience, are more rabid than NFL fans, but there are fewer of them because there's just more that you need to understand.
May I contend with that point?
Yeah.
The Horseshoe, over 100,000 people in the stands. Michigan, over 100,000 people in the stands. Texas A&M, Kyle Field, over 100,000 people in the stands. Find me an NFL stadium that has anything like that.
But there's like specific parts of America where that is the case. You go anywhere in America, and you're going to meet a lot of NFL fans. The college football thing is more regionally focused.
The only argument I would give you there is every college...
No one in New York City really cares about college football unless you came from one of those places and you live in New York.
New York City is a bastion of normalcy. let's see. I think the voters just voted on that. I think that,
are we doing this now? Let's go.
I will say this. Every college football player's dream is to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's true.
So it is the pinnacle.
No, but I'm just saying, I think you need to be more into football to love college football than you need to be into football to love the NFL.
That's probably true.
I think that's
Kyle, what's your...
Well, to piggyback a little bit off Will's, I think football encapsulates all the things. It's got a great storyline. It's
tons of great storylines.
There's a rhythm to it. It's weekly. I don't have to watch every game to understand what's going on. I can tune in on Sunday. I know the players. So that's my difference in like NFL versus college. It's hard to keep up with unless you're just a diehard, Tennessee fan. You do not know who their quarterback is. But for the NFL, I know pretty much every player in the major positions, so I can connect there. And then for me, why does football work is the ability to watch and be entertained by the red zone. I don't watch a game by itself.
You mean the red zone channel?
I only watch on
red
zone.
It was working before that.
Wow.
It was. I'm just saying for me, why does football work today?
So do you not have a team that you sit down and you watch?
I will watch the Rams play for sure. I'm a Rams fan.
Are you from LA?
No, I'm from St. Louis. So the Rams moved to St. Louis.
Oh, that's right.
When I was a teenager. And then
that must have been heartbreaking for you.
It's horrible.
Because they won a Super Bowl.
They did. And I moved to Nashville. And so when the Rams moved to LA, I said, well, I moved. They moved. I'll stick with them. But there's a loyalty there. See, that's the other interesting thing. Like living in Nashville now, the Titans, if they win, cool. But
they make it hard.
I don't care. There's something in me about my city, like that. I'm prideful, and I cannot cheer for another team unless it's my city. Yeah. So there's something to be said about that too.
Identity association.
For me, those are the reasons why I think football works for me and in America and beyond.
Well, you just said something I want to underline, which I think is kind of remarkable about football and some sports, but exaggerated in football, in the NFL and college football. Like we live in a culture where we're mostly fair weather fans about most things. Like we celebrate someone until they start to fail, and then you throw them to the wolves, right? Like
we love doing that.
But gosh, people are loyal to teams that have never even won. Like people love teams year after year after year through all of it, and it's kind of incredible.
Yeah,
actually gives me a little bit of hope in humanity.
All right, here's my reason that I think football took off in the way it has. It would have taken off anyway. But we're talking about massively taking off.
Yeah.
The reason is the money. There is so much money. I mean, everybody says follow the money. It's true.
Yeah.
Listen to this. Compared to, you say, why didn't soccer take off in America? One, football had kind of got a foothold here.
Yeah.
And soccer is taking off here. Football got a foothold. One of the reasons soccer didn't take off is you can't put commercials in it. It wasn't until you could green screen the thing on the sidelines and actually get people to pay you money while you're watching a game. There's no breaks. There's a break at halftime.
Yeah,
That's
hard.
it. Listen to this. Commercial break opportunities. End of every quarter. 2-minute warning. Every single timeout. After any score. Kickoffs. Anytime somebody's injured. Replay reviews. And change of possessions. Plus floating 30-second timeouts. You can how many times have you watched football when they'll run a play and they go to commercial? They'll come back, they'll run a play, and they go to commercial.
It's so annoying.
But the story loop is open so big. Like they're on the 12-yard line, guys.
Baseball has all the commercials, and baseball had a foothold before football.
Right, and it still did better.
And the NFL still came in.
Yeah, the other thing we didn't talk about, it's gladiators. It's violent.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, whatever the reason why it works,
who cares?
I'm just so happy it exists.
I'm so happy it exists.
Thanks for listening to the Why That Worked podcast presented by StoryBrand.ai. If you like the show, follow wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're enjoying this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment letting us know what you think and what you want the guys to talk about in a future episode. Curious about how StoryBrand.ai can help you create clear, effective messaging? Well, you can try it out right now and create a free customized tagline for your business. Just go to StoryBrand.ai. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.